Ethnic diversity is commonly understood as a problem for public goods provision. That means in countries where people speak different languages, vary in their skin color, or pray to different gods, these countries are usually seen as less effective in providing basic public services such as schools and hospitals. Well, what I do in my new research is to challenge and revisit this claim. And I do this by bringing in history, because ethnic diversity doesn't fall from the sky. So what I ask is, how is ethnic diversity made and remade over time? And could it be that the same historical processes that shape contemporary diversity also shape contemporary public goods provision? And my answer focuses specifically on the formation of modern nation states, because states arguably are centrally involved in the provision of basic public services, but they're also crucial identity shapers. Think, for example, schooling and the socialization of citizens. So I'm interested in whether states sought to assimilate, accommodate, or exclude minorities. That has important implications for both diversity and public goods provision outcomes. For example, in an accommodationist nation building, I expect to lead to the reinforcement of diversity over time, but also to the formation of a political consensus around public goods provision, universal public goods provision. Think, for example, Canada or Singapore here. And then I also look at the historical state formation, whether states were historically strong or weak. And here I expect strong states, think of France, for example, to lead to the decline of diversity over time, but also to leave a legacy of effective public service provision behind for today. So what's at stake with this research? For one thing, if you look at the current political climate, politicians, nativist movements around the world, from Myanmar to Hungary, claim that ethnic minorities impede the provision of basic public goods and services. So this idea that diversity is bad for public goods provision is in political use, and therefore needs to be revisited. But also within academia, a large scholarship exists that claims, without sufficiently taking a historical perspective, that diversity dampens public goods provision. Vis-a-vis both this dominant scholarship in political economy, but also the wider public debates and how the relationship between diversity and public goods provision is framed there. My project seeks to bring a historical perspective to the foreground. In order to answer my research question, I take a mixed methods approach. And that means I combine cross-national statistical analysis with in-detail historical case studies. I look at carefully selected pairs of countries in different world regions. And here I combine pairs of countries that either have converged dramatically in public goods provision. Think of literacy rates or infant mortality rates here that have converged over the last decades. And this convergence cannot be explained by levels of ethnic diversity. So cases that come to mind here are Spain and France in Europe, or the Philippines and Indonesia in Southeast Asia. And I combine this with another set of cases that have let's say, similar historical starting points with respect to ethnic diversity, and then that diverge dramatically over time. And here I'm looking, for example, at the cases of Zambia and Botswana in sub-Saharan Africa. For the statistical analysis, I will create 2 new data sets, one on historical nation-building strategies based on the analysis of constitutional preambles and school curricula, and then a second data set on historical state capacities that looks at the frequency and the coverage of historical population censuses as a way to get at the capacity, the strength of the state in historical times. Well, the ERC grant will help me tremendously in doing the different components, in pursuing the different work packages of my project. And first and foremost, it allows me to hire a team of 4 postdocs. Some of them will be area specialists with in-depth knowledge of one particular world region, for example, Southeast Asia or Sub-Saharan Africa, and postdocs who are specialists in large-scale quantitative statistical analyses. And together with this team, we will pursue initially the case studies and then move towards the collection of data for the construction of these 2 new data sets, and then move towards the statistical analysis towards the end of the project.